Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome, very warm welcome to our webinar, Integrating Walking into Mobility and Transport Policy. The webinar is brought to you by the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, and I'm Katharina Krell, thematic expert for Greener Europe, and your moderator for this webinar. I'm here with my two colleagues, Simon Hankin and Valentine Dufay. Simon is a thematic expert like myself, and Valentine is our technical visit, making sure that we can speak to each other and see each other. So I'm very exciting to have a webinar on walking. It's actually the first time that we speak essentially about walking. Next. We had a mini series. I don't know, maybe some of you have been with us last week. So if yes, then welcome back. If not, then still welcome. Last week we talked about promoting cycling and walking being the two coins of active mobility. And you can already see the recordings and the presentations from last week online. So this is our first webinar solely focusing on walking, and indeed walking is not getting a lot of this specific policy attention per se, neither at the European level and also not so much in our regions and cities. It's mostly linked with cycling, with efforts of pedestrianization, and very often with tourism routes. Next. So we have also treated the topic, but together in a larger context, either when we talked about building sustainable urban mobility plans or in a policy brief specifically dedicated on active modes of transport, and we're updating that currently. Next one. Although we see some cities are also having ingenious ways of promoting walking and walkability. This is a picture from Thessaloniki, and you will see these are indications to tourist attractions, indicating how far they are, how many minutes it takes you to walk, and how many calories you burn. So I really, really like this because it triggers our internal motivator to do some steps, to do something good for our health and burn some calories. All right. So, let's see. I don't want to anticipate too much the positive aspects of walking, because for that we have our keynote. And we welcome here Jim Walker, which is suitably named to work for Walk 21, which is the European Association to promote walking. And he's also a partner in our Step Up project, and he's doing a little keynote for us. And then we're going to look into 3 very interesting case studies from our European regions and cities, starting with Tampere. Sheba Nair from Tampere University is going to explain us how Tampere has given walking a very prominent place in its SAMP. Then we will hear from the Burgenland, from Johannes Keller and Carlos Cañas, where a walkability app is actually testing the walkability of networks and giving information to policymakers. And we will end with a great presentation from a Green and Blue Axis from Sintra municipality, presented by Sofia Silvano and Pedro Flores. And all these 4 speakers are coming from 3 different Interreg Europe projects: Step Up, Embracer, and Promoter, that are all dealing, amongst other, with walking policies. Afterwards, we will dive into a little panel discussion. All right, but before that, let me give you a few words of background on us. Next, the Policy Learning Platform, that's us. We're the 2nd pillar of the Interreg Europe program. We're solely dedicated to making knowledge flow between European regions and cities. The Policy Learning Platform is accessible to everybody independently of if you're in a project or not. We bring together people in events like today's. We have a lot of knowledge, like the policy briefs I've shown you earlier on our portal, which is getting richer by the day. And today I want to focus a little bit on the on-demand policy advice that we offer under expertise, because maybe after this webinar you get an appetite to ask for some specific expertise from us. So next slide. Under expertise, you can ask for a help desk, but you can ask also for a deeper exchange with experts. Our, let's say, biggest expert service format is called peer review, and it's a 2-day meeting that any region or local authority in Europe really can request. It has to be a public body, though, to address, together with experts from other regions, a policy challenge that they have. So we, the platform, invites and finds the suitable experts, and we brief the experts, we prepare the meeting, everything is moderated and is also paid by us. And we organize this 2-day, very specific and focused knowledge exchange. And it ends with a set of very detailed recommendations. Next. It's also really easy to request. There's just a short application form with these headers about you. You have to explain what policy you want to work on, what exactly you need, what you're expecting from the peer review, and what kind of expertise you're looking for. So that's it. And you send it to us, and the process takes place. So I think it's magic. Next slide. It's very popular. We already have 90 peer reviews under our belt and growing every day. So if you're interested in that, don't hesitate to contact any of us. All right, but now let's move on to our topic of walking today. And so I think it's time to hand over to Jim. Jim, you're up. Please share your screen. And over to you.
Thanks very much. And thank you again for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning and share with you some insights that we have about from Walk21, about how we think walking is best integrated into transport policy. And of all the days to have this webinar, I think it's fantastic that Interreg has chosen World Sustainable Transport Day, which the whole world is sitting there thinking about sustainable transport today. And of course, walking is very much the foundation mode, that we have to get that right first if we want a sustainable transport system. Next slide, please. And what we're sharing with you today, and this is my colleague Carlos will be speaking to you a little bit later, is a sense of what it is we're trying to achieve from a policy. I think sometimes people were shy about developing walking policy because they didn't necessarily know what it is that they should be asking for, what they should be putting in a policy. But if you think about it on the right-hand side, and we think about the walking behavior, I think it's clear that what we want to do is think about encouraging people to walk as often as possible, but that behavior, of course, is influenced by the route, the distance, whether or not it's feasible, and how often you go and how far you go is determined by actually this walking experience. And so much of the work that we do at Walk 21 and working with our Step Up project in particular with Interreg is thinking about this walking experience, making sure that the things that people have to put up with walking, and people do put up with a lot of rubbish, I have to say, in lots of parts of the world. But how do we influence that walking experience in the way that we develop our policy, which is the part on the left there, by thinking about both the people, the walk context, but also the places that we actually provide. And this, of course, is how we can think about our policies. Next slide, please. And if we were to sum up this vision about what it is we really want to achieve, then we can think about a place where people can walk regularly to reach public transport and other key destinations. We don't want people, we want free from risk of being hurt, space and facilities to support their needs, and an ability to enjoy walking experiences. And honestly, we have presented this to mayor after mayor, practitioner after practitioner, community after community all over the world. And nobody says they don't want this. But understanding what it is that you need to choose and how to actually invest in practices and actions to deliver it means that we need to focus on people, thinking about how to support and encourage people to walk, places, creating safe and easily enjoyable places to walk, and of course processes. We need to tidy up our processes because quite often we forget about embedding walking into the policy process. Next slide, please. So, we're going backwards. We're going to share with you 5 goals, which I think would hopefully be the sorts of things that you might feel are the things you would like in your city or region, wherever you might be in Europe. And that first goal is about activity. And I have to say, all these pictures I'm sharing with you are from our Step Up project, actually, and our partners. So many of which I think are with us on the call. So hello to them. But yes, everybody should be able to walk regularly. And as I say, this is very much the essential part of a sustainable transport system. You know, we need to think about making sure that people can choose to walk, and that walking is something that is accessible. If you choose to the next slide, you'll see that actually what's happening in Europe in lots of places is that the proportion of people who are sitting and actually less active seems to be increasing in lots of parts of Europe. And I think this is a challenge. It's not the same everywhere. And by sharing these slides with you, I hope maybe you can look at them again later and look at the detail and think where your country might feel and what you're doing about that, because there is a direct relationship between inactivity, sedentary behavior, and of course the impact on non-communicable diseases, things like heart attacks, obesity, cancers even. And actually just moving more can make a significant impact on that. So actually embedding mobility, walking and cycling actually into transport behaviors makes a lot of sense. Next slide. The second goal we like to talk about is safety. This is a picture actually from Burgenland. Johannes will be speaking in a bit later. But actually keeping people safe and free from risk of being hurt is so key. And yet, if you look at the next slide, when we look at the data across Europe, and this is European data from Eurostat stuff, you'll see that there's a real inequality. And this is something that I feel we really need to tackle. When you talked about peer reviews there, Katerina, I think this is something we really need to think about, because you're 12 times more likely to be killed while walking in Romania than you are in Sweden or in the Netherlands. And this seems just extraordinary to us that we've got this inequality, and we just desperately need to do something a bit more about this. Generally speaking, it's got safer, cars have got safer over the last 10, 15 years, but it hasn't got safer to be a pedestrian. And in fact, cycling has got 50% across Europe, 50% more casualties than they have 10 years ago. So both walking and cycling is really suffering. And the best thing you can do to make walking and cycling safer is to get more people to do it. Next slide, please. You'll see there that the further right you go, effectively, it's not just like you saw on the road safety map, but from a security point of view, it's really also very important to recognize that there are places where many people don't feel safe, particularly women don't feel safe walking alone at night. And so although on that left-hand side, it's everybody about perception of how safe they feel walking alone at night. The right-hand data there, the Eurostat data, is showing the difference between men and women. And I think that's really interesting to see this data and see it by country, how the gaps are and what it is that you can do about that by investing in walking and thinking more about that experience. Next slide, please. The third goal, I said I'm sharing 5 with you today. So the third goal is about accessibility. And what makes a lot of sense is that everyone can reach public transport and other key destinations on foot. This is a slide from our partner in Braga. We were there a few weeks ago. And making sure that people can access public transport is absolutely key to a sustainable transport system. And on the next slide, you'll see that we've done a policy brief about this. We've looked at the research and evidence. This is data from Helge Hilnehutte from Norway. And what he's shown there is that when you look at the cities who are investing in public transport, it's not enough to actually get a reduce in congestion. Many policies, many cities are looking at trying to reduce congestion or car traffic. And you'll see from the colors of the spots there that the red ones where cities are investing in public transport in that area 1 on the left, you'll see that they've invested in public transport where they aren't necessarily getting congestion down. The most successful ones are in that area 4 in the top right, which is where cities have invested in walking and public transport. You get that right, and this is the perfect marriage. We often put together walking and cycling, but actually it's walking and public transport is really going to be the underpinning of any sustainable transport mobility policy. So let's get that right, and do look at our free policy guide there. We've written that in partnership with UITP and UIC, the railway and public transport bodies, as well as the PEP, WHO and UNECE. Everyone is saying the same thing, but we need to get this information out to a city level and make sure that people understand how to get this partnership right. Next slide, please. Goal 4 is about comfort. Because, as I say, it's one thing to make it safe, and of course we need to get people more active, but if it's horrible out there, people will choose to do something else. So actually making sure that people have the space to walk and that we provide facilities that support their needs makes a lot of sense. This, again, from an area in Austria, and you can see that that sort of walking experience makes you want to go out, makes you want to enjoy it. Of course it does, but it's not always like that. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see from the IRAP data, this is the International Road Assessment Programme, you'll see that very often the amount of facilities, if you look at the way that people have audited streets, only, well, in Europe, this is just European data, you'll see that 31% of streets aren't actually, and in fact, it's 31 plus 48%, it's pretty abysmal, that they don't even meet the 3-star minimum standard for pedestrian safety. That's basically a footpath, a safe crossing, and an appropriate traffic speed. You know, we are failing people daily, and that's why people are choosing to walk less. And that is having a huge impact on the way that we look after our cities. Next slide, please. The final goal, I said we've got 5, and I hope this is helpful, is thinking about satisfaction. It's this experience-led thoughts. You know, we can look at this data around safety and accessibility, comfort. We have measures for these things. But what's super exciting is that actually we've now got measures for satisfaction, and Carlos and Johannes will be sharing how we're dealing with that at the moment. Look at that picture there of somebody who's having to wait 93 seconds before the light signal changes to cross the road. Small things like this, and giving people a chance to say, I'm frustrated. You know, this isn't easy for me, waiting and waiting. It's just small things that can be done very, very quickly to actually encourage and support people to walk. But sometimes we forget that where the priorities are in the way that we design and deliver our cities. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see the app that Carlos will be sharing in a minute that helps people share their experiences so that we can pinpoint where our cities are reasonable and where the level of service still needs improving. Next slide. And look, this is all wrapped up in a policy template, and this is really at the heart of the Step Up project, is helping cities and regions improve and evaluate their existing walking policies. And what's super exciting is that we've recently looked at just one part of Europe, around the Northwest region, and we looked at 35 cities. We found 33 already had walking policies. But are they good? Are they good enough? I don't know. I think this is the conversation we're keen to spark and think about. But there is a formula here. And it's a formula that we've worked on with walking and with cycling. But this is something that we're keen to support. Next slide. And this is a policy development which is happening across the world. In fact, 62% of countries now around the world have a national policy for walking. Only 22% have it for cycling. And it's not that it's a competition. We need both, of course we do. But if you look at that region, and there's regional data there on the PATH website, that's the Partnership for Active Travel and Health, you'll be able to look in depth at the European data and understand who's got a policy already, where there's room for improvement, and use this policy template to really think about what's next. Next slide. And so case studies, this is really what it all comes down to. I think it's very hard to be at the pointy end of thinking about what is the right thing to do. Am I doing something that's going to have an impact? But we've just published global case studies. We launched that at the Climate Talks last week in Baku. We've got several European countries in there as some of the best in the world at doing the great job at a national level. But what we'll be picking up in the Step Up project is also many, many examples across our partners here in Europe, where those sort of 20 actions that we feel are the right things to do for walking, we'll be highlighting that they are doing a great job for those things too. Last slide, I think. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention. If there's anything we can do to help, we are based in the UK, but we also have Walk 21 in Europe, based in the Netherlands, and we're really keen to support and work with any city, any region across Europe to make sure that everybody deserves this right to walk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim, for this inspiring keynote. You're right, we're often treating together walking and cycling, whereas each should be, treated on its own and together with public transport. Yeah. And I'm also very happy that we managed to have enough specific good practices to deserve a webinar on its own on walking, because, well, we treat the topics when our projects work on these topics. So congratulations to you, because you have proposed this topic, finally. Walking doesn't really have a big lobby, because it's everybody, so it's nobody. It's not organized. Even cycling is more organized. And let's not even talk about the car lobby. Now, how do you think regional and local policymakers still can fight for, let's say, better walkability in their territories, despite this absence of any lobby?
Yeah, it's interesting, that why we should need a lobby. It's like breathing the air and, being able to walk. The reality is we have to decide whether these are the sorts of things that we want: safety, comfort, satisfaction, accessibility. These are sort of the foundations of a quality of life, actually. And look, we talk about walking, but these are the essential parts of mobility. And we don't think that necessarily you need a lobby for that. These are things that are for all of us. This is the life that we want. And honestly, if you present these goals, these are the sorts of things that every community will say, yes, please give me that. And so I think the challenge I would put to you is, and to all our partners on the call here, is are we here because we want to remind people that walking is good for them, or is it that we actually just want to keep people on their feet? And this glass half full, glass half empty is something we really need to check for ourselves. People will give it up if we don't look after them. And that has a massive impact on our economy, the environment, and our health. But we can keep people on their feet. And we learned this during COVID. Actually, we do value walking. And most of the policies that we've seen at a national level and in our cities have been since COVID, when people realize, actually, this stuff matters. And when we can't do it, we realize we are less for it. Our places are less for it. And we don't enjoy our lives as much. And so, I think we're seeing a massive resurgence in policy. And as I say, we're here to help.
Yes, COVID has given us some good things. The awareness about walking and breathing clean air and enjoying green, I think. And you also point out that the reasons why people don't walk and safety, I mean, it's incredible to look at those statistics and to see how vulnerable active modes of transport are compared and how this varies across the European countries. So something has to be done about that, obviously. I want to ask a question to the audience on why do you walk? So tell us a little bit, what are the motivators that get you walking? You should see a poll and you should just be able to, okay. Now you have to go through the Slido. So do you walk because, well, you have no other option, and that's why people in many parts and the poorer parts of the world are walking? Do you walk because it's healthy and you need to move, or because it's the fastest way to reach a certain destination? That would be good. It's cheap, it's good for the environment, or you like walking and it's multiple choices here, so you can tick several or all of the boxes. So let's see what's the winner. For the moment, I like walking is trending, just followed by it's healthy and I need to move. It's good for the environment and it's the fastest way to reach a certain destination, are about 30% each. I have no other option. It's I can't see it, but I don't think there's any answer. Opa. Yeah. 6% walk because they have no other option. So very interesting.
It might just reflect who's on the call, because we have to remember that actually children, older people, people with disabilities, people on low incomes, very often they walk more than other people, and certainly with women as well. And so we have to make sure that we're designing our cities equitably for everybody, of course. And so just because that's the lowest score doesn't matter. It's not actually the most important. So we have to embed all these things into the way that we design and deliver our policies.
You're right, we're not representative. But okay, I was factoring that in. True. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Then let's move on to our good practices, and let's start by looking at the city of Tampere and how they have built the walking policies and the walking promotion into their sustainable urban mobility plan. Sheba, the floor is yours. And you can also turn on your camera and unmute your mic.
Yes, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Everything good.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheba Nair. I'm from Tampere University in Finland, and I'm here to talk about promoting walking in Tampere SAMP. Welcome to Tampere, Finland's hidden gem. Tampere is the third largest city in Finland, which is located in Northern Europe. And Finland is globally famous for its untouched natural landscapes, mesmerizing northern lights, and being ranked the happiest country in the world for several years. Tampere is a thriving city known for its educational institutions, cutting-edge technology industries, rich cultural scene, and not to forget a good sauna culture, making it a perfect blend of innovation, culture, and nature. Let's start with a quote that perfectly captures the essence of what we are discussing today. Walking is man's best medicine. This powerful statement comes from Hippocrates, often known as the father of medicine. Over 2,000 years ago, he recognized the incredible health benefits of walking, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole. Today, this wisdom is more relevant than ever. Walking is not only good for personal health, but also acts as a cornerstone for sustainable cities. It reduces emissions, enhances community well-being, and brings us closer to creating clean, connected urban spaces. As you all know, SAMPs are holistic plans that tackle urban transport challenges sustainably. They enhance accessibility, improve efficiency, and reduce environmental impacts by integrating modes like public transit, cycling, and walking. Tampere exemplifies this approach through its own SAMP and aligns with the climate-neutral Tampere 2030 roadmap. Walking is an essential part of Tampere's SAMP. Tampere SAMP includes infrastructure upgrades, public engagement, and safety measures to make walking a practical and an attractive choice. One of the rationales for promoting walking is carbon neutrality goals. Carbon neutrality by 2030 is a key objective of Tampere's SAMP. walking initiatives reduce emissions for short trips and encourage sustainable mobility. Another rationale is public health benefits. Promoting walking contributes to public health by improving air quality and encouraging active lifestyles. Cleaner air benefits physical health, while reduced traffic noise and safer streets enhance mental well-being. The third one is enhancing quality of life. Walkable cities strengthen communities by fostering connections and ensuring accessibility for all. Tampare's focus on walking aligns with the vision of creating inclusive urban spaces, combining environmental, social, and health benefits to achieve a higher quality of life for all its residents. Now, about the walking initiatives in Tampere, first one is the expansion of the walking infrastructure. Walking infrastructure in Tampere is expanded to include connected pathways, pedestrian-only zones, and wider sidewalks. These upgrades enhance accessibility, ensuring a safe and a comfortable experience for all users of all abilities. Secondly, safety and accessibility improvements. Wayfinding systems and well-lit paths improve navigation, while traffic calming measures and high-quality crossings reduce risks for pedestrians. The design of pedestrian zones prioritizes safety and usability. Thirdly, integration with public transport. Walking routes are integrated with public transport hubs, ensuring seamless connections for multimodal travel. Linking walking paths to buses, trams, and park and ride facilities encourages sustainable mobility and strengthens the overall transport network. Responsible entities and stakeholders. So City of Tampere leads walking initiatives with coordinated efforts across planning, transportation, and public works. Residents and organizations shape the projects through surveys and workshops, ensuring that they meet public needs. Collaborations with environmental groups and research institutions like us brings innovative, pedestrian-friendly solutions. Stakeholders work together to make walking accessible, attractive, and sustainable for Tampere's residents. The timeline for walking initiatives are as follows. So SUMP was approved in 2021, marking systematic walking initiatives. Initial phases focused on planning, public consultation, and integrating walking into broader mobility framework. Implementation is ongoing, and the infrastructure improvements are rolling out incrementally. Milestones include pedestrian path expansion, safety upgrades, public engagement campaigns. Progress is tracked regularly to adapt strategies as and when needed. The goal is to create a fully walkable city by 2030. The timeline aligns with Tampere's carbon neutral objectives, ensuring walking initiatives contribute to broader sustainability goals. Now, about financial investments. Walking initiatives are a part of a €50 million budget allocated to sustainable mobility. This budget also supports cycling and public transport improvements, ensuring a cohesive and an integrated urban mobility system. Specific allocations include infrastructure development such as pedestrian paths, crosswalks, and safety upgrades. Public engagement campaigns to promote walking are also included, maximizing the impact of the investments. Shared infrastructure, such as multi-use sidewalks for pedestrians and cyclists, optimizes resources. This approach ensures cost-effective implementation while meeting diverse mobility needs within the city. Now for the KPIs and the results. KPIs for walking initiatives include increased pedestrian traffic, reduced car dependency, and improved air quality. These metrics guide progress and ensure alignment with Tampere's carbon neutrality objectives. Early results indicate positive changes, with more residents choosing walking for short trips. Improvements in pedestrian safety and accessibility have received favorable public feedback. Enhanced public engagement has strengthened community support for walking initiatives. And regular feedback mechanisms ensure that the city can adapt plans to address emerging needs and challenges effectively. Now, for the vision of 2030. The vision for 2030 includes walking as a primary mode of transport for short trips. Expanded pedestrian pathways, green spaces, and improved crossings will make walking safe, accessible, and enjoyable for all residents. Integration with public transport hubs will ensure seamless connectivity between walking routes and other sustainable mobility options. And this approach strengthens Tampere's commitment to reducing car dependency. The ambition aligns with Tampere's goals for becoming a carbon neutral, livable city. Enhanced pedestrian infrastructure will promote active mobility, fostering healthier communities and a cleaner urban environment. Now, for some recommendations for other cities from Tampere, regions should prioritize walking infrastructure as a foundation for sustainable mobility. Investment in safe, accessible pedestrian paths reduce car dependency and enhance urban livability. Community engagement is essential for successful implementation. Public input ensures walking initiatives address local needs and gain widespread support for residents. Regular monitoring and adaptability strengthen the impact of these walking initiatives, and evaluating the KPIs help regions refine strategies and respond to emerging challenges effectively. These are some references. This is a presentation on a good practice called Sustainable Mobility in Tampere, SUMP implementation for carbon neutrality associated with Interreg Europe's Embracer project. Kiitos, thank you.
Wow, you really managed to keep your time. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I'm also very impressed with Tampere's SUMP and the prominent space it is given to walking. And I want to ask, is this a normal thing in Finland to do, that the cities have in their SUMPs a prominent space for walking, or is Tampere kind of standing out there?
So in Finland, adoption of SUMP is encouraged by, of course, the national and the EU level sustainable urban mobility framework. However, not all Finnish cities address walking in the same capacity or specificity like how Tampere does. Tampere stands out in this through its walking initiatives, through the carbon neutral Tampere 2030 roadmap, which is now actually climate neutral Tampere 2030 roadmaps. And it focuses on these comprehensive measures, like I mentioned, such as pedestrian-friendly infrastructure, public engagement, and most importantly, as Jim mentioned, integration with public transport systems. Other cities, like, for example, Helsinki, the capital, they do promote in whole all kinds of sustainable modes of transport, including walking, but the emphasis on walking might vary. And Tampere's initiative stands out in walking in Finland.
Okay, cool. I mean, I had the impression, but then I don't have the picture on all the Finnish cities alike. So thank you for confirming. There are a few questions in the chat for you. Simon will convey them to you.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so the first question is coming from Eloisa, and she's asking, how do citizens react to these measures? How do they value non-observable improvements, such as air quality improvements?
Sorry, I didn't... Unobservable. Okay.
Okay. So the question was, how do citizens react to these measures?
They do react positively, actually. Like I mentioned, that walking is now considered the most optimal mode of transport for short trips, even personally, and therefore it is actually seen. The shift to active mobility is very clearly seen, and the city is actually measuring this using public feedback methods, and they are also tracking the number of pedestrians on the road, and improving. They are improving options, the measures for the pedestrians, making it safe to travel in the night, and yeah. So they are measuring it through the metrics that I mentioned in the previous slides, and public is taking it positively.
Okay, thank you. I think that's answering also the second question about the KPIs that you are using. So the next question is, do you see a seasonal change in behavior How do you promote walking in the winter? I guess particularly an issue in Finland.
As far as the figures that I know, personally, I do see a seasonal change in my behavior. But as far as numbers go, I have only numbers from autumn. In terms of personal experience, I can say that the city is very active in cleaning of the snow and providing, if it is icy, then it provides suitable actions. There are suitable actions done to create a safe environment for people to walk. So there are still a lot of people walking in Tampere city even during winters. I don't think it hampers what people do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was an interesting question, yes. But Scandinavia is good for not letting the winter stop, neither the public transport, nor the cycling, nor the walking. So thank you for sharing the experiences with us. Sheba, I have another question for the audience. Does your territory have a specific walking policy? Now we have learned from Jim that many cities have a walking policy, and he was asking, are they good enough? So the mere existing of a walking policy is already a good sign, but maybe it doesn't tell us everything. But let's see how the territories are performing in already singling out walking in their mobility policies. Okay. For the moment, 40% no. Okay, I'm waiting a little bit because it's moving. 20% yes, 20% under development, and some people are not sure. Okay, so we are less good than your I don't know, you said 30 out of your 33 cities. Anyway, we're not as good here overall. So there is still a way to go. You can give walking a more specific space in your mobility strategy and in your SAMP, like Tampere has done. And if you want to exchange with the city of Tampere, we can arrange that for you. Okay, thank you very much. Then let's move on to Austria, where Johannes Kellner from the Burgenland Business Agency and Carlos Cañas from Walk21 are sharing a presentation on the Step Up Walkability app. The floor is yours.
Yes, hello everybody. I want to give a very warm welcome to you, and also big thanks to Interreg Europe for letting us present our activities, and especially the Walkability app in Burgenland. I'm going to make this presentation together with Carlos from the Walk21. Walk21 is our advisory partner in the Step Up project. We are 8 cities and regions all across Europe, and every one of us is aiming to make our policies more effective, more suitable for pedestrians in our cities and regions. That's the main goal we are aiming for. And we are very happy that the Walk21 is supporting us in this ambitious goal. Let's go to Austria. Let's go to Burgenland. Maybe not everybody of you knows where Burgenland is. It's the most east region and federal state of Austria. It's east to Vienna and to the border of Hungary and Slovakia. It's a very, you can say, a rural area with about 300,000 people living there, and most of the landscape is shaped by small villages. The capital is Eisenstadt with around 17,000 inhabitants. So that's the one thing. It's important to know. The other thing is that the region is the one which has the most cars by people. So I would say every household has at least 2 cars, most of them even more, because we have a public transport system which consists mainly of buses, a little bit of train, and it's a region which, the people are used to traveling long distances, quite a lot of distances by cars. So that's that's the plot here in Burgenland, and walking is, well, quite a new topic. We are really starting, you can say, from the scratch, and the Walkability app by the Walk21 is one tool we try to implement to make our policy better. Our policy at the moment is mainly about public transport, and walking is only, well, a little bit behind the scenes, you can say, but we are working on it. The Walkability app, we tried it. Its main goal is to generate data concerning walkability. We tried it already in 5 places. We picked places in the south, in the middle, and in the north of Burgenland. Most of them were smaller villages, and Eisenstadt is the capital with 16,000. And we try to focus around public transport stations. As Jim already told us, it's very important, this integration, and also because it's important for the policy, the city centers and the village centers. It's also a very important thing. So, but now I give over to Carlos, who can explain to you how the Walkability app works, as he has designed it and developed it.
Thank you, Johannes. I'll try to be quick, so I'll give the last minute to Johannes again to wrap up the presentation. We go into the actual app. I wanted to start saying that the app can be used in different ways. So mainly, it can be used as a participatory mapping tool for citizen science projects, in which anyone, including you, can download and use the app for free and share your walking experiences with specific projects. It can also be used as a tool for walking interviews. So in that case, participants don't really need to download the app. It's the interviewer who has the app and use it just to input the responses from the participants. And we can also use it as an expert audit tool in which experts walk around and collect data with it. In Burgenland, we mainly use the app as a walking interview tool, interviewing participants, but we also use it as an expert audit in some places where it was challenging to engage with a lot of pedestrians. And we were aiming for a specific sample size, and then we combined interviews with audits. But regardless of the way you collect the data, the Walkability app looks into 4 main types of information. We look into people, what we call pedestrian profile, then the walk context, the experience, and the place. So you see in the picture, Leah, this is Lisbon, and she's conducting a walking interview with an old lady. And on the other side, you see the actual interface for the Walkability app. So when you start engaging participants, the first thing you do is to ask about what we call the pedestrian profile. And we collect data about the age, the gender, the ability to walk and to interact with the environment, and also the activity of the participants. Once we have this type of information, we move into the walk context. And this is more related to travel surveys. And we're asking about the decision to walk, the purpose, the company, and the familiarity with the place. So whether the participant is local or tourist, and so on. The third type of information is the actual experience. And we have a Likert scale that goes from very negative to negative, neutral, positive, and very positive. And we also ask if the experience is more related to safety, comfort, or enjoyment. And finally, we ask the why, which is the place in this case. And we have a series of predefined categories with elements and characteristics of the public space. So the experience will be influenced by the footpath, the crossing, street furniture, greenery, and so on. And we also include some subcategories for these 11 main categories. So if the participant says that, I don't know, they're having a positive experience, they can say is thanks to the footpath because it's wide and because it's smooth and so on, or the greenery and so on. So they can include more detail into the predefined categories. The last thing we collect with the app is obviously the coordinates, which help us to conduct some spatial analysis that I'll show in a minute. We can also attach an image of the place, link it to a specific route, add some comments, and then time and date. So what do we do with this data? This is an example of Burgenland with 4 study areas where you can see where the observations were taken, the interviews were conducted. The first insight is to see who is actually working there. So we can see in terms of age, gender, ability, and also the work context, the kind of participants that we encounter in the study. And obviously then we can see the share of experiences. Because we are collecting this data systematically with the same tool, and in the same way, we can start comparing different places. Johannes didn't say that we were focusing on public transport areas. So most of the study areas are train stations or bus stations. And in some cases, data was collected around the catchment area, in other cases, in corridors. But here we can just aggregate our observations and see whether some areas have more or less negative and positive experiences.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Okay, because we ask the why, we can, sorry for the small table, but we can see what actually influence such experiences. So what elements are related to what experiences. And if we look into detail, you can see that most places where we go have good and bad things. And we can look into the detail and see whether, for example, the footpath, we can look into the subcategories or the crossing and see that maybe the absence of crossings or the speed of the traffic is having a negative impact, and specifically in these areas for these people. The where and what, these help us prioritizing interventions. We can see a lot of people are talking about specific places or specific things and where those things are good or bad. Which help us prioritize interventions. And finally, we can also see how different people interact and experience the same place. So we can understand how specific people have needs and concerns depending on their age, gender, and so on. Sorry to be this fast. Finally, you can see this data on our web platform. But I'll give the floor to Johannes so he can wrap up the presentation.
Okay, let's go to the last chart. I think the next one. Yeah, just one lessons learned, and which are maybe interesting for other regions and cities as well who want to do this. For us, we learned that it's very important who is asking the questions. So the staff that you send out for asking people questions has to be well competent and has to know the basics about walking and walkability. So that's very important. Of course, we are a rural area, so it's really a challenge to get enough people to meet them on the streets or the public transport stations. So you really have to think in advance when to go, where to go, and how to plan all of this. One very important thing and interesting thing is that in Burgenland, people are not used to walk and they don't have it on their agenda. So sometimes they don't know what to say, and sometimes they don't even know that even if a situation is from an objective perspective very negative for walking, they don't say it because they don't even know how it could be better. So this is very interesting, and you have to integrate it into your analysis. And of course, we think it's apart from generating this data, I think it is a big opportunity, this app, for generating collaborative learning concerning walking. We would like to use this data even more, this app even more in context of schools or already active citizen groups which are there, and maybe do this together with them for generating this collaborative knowledge production. I think this is a big chance and an opportunity of this app as well. Thank you so much. This was our presentations. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you very much, Johannes and Carlos. I really like the differentiation of the data when you aggregate it, how you can see where the problems are, and then you can even go down like the problem is traffic, but is it too fast traffic, too much traffic? This is and that you can see by gender and by age group, I guess, as well, who's perceiving what in which way. So the aggregated findings are really, really interesting because they help us to put ourselves in the shoes of the different people that walk the area. I guess it's very precious to bridge the gap between the top-down mobility planning and a bottom-up design. Who is using these results and what are you doing with it?
Well, in the Step Up project, we plan to do this in several regions, not only in Burgenland, but it's free to the partners on how to decide how to use it. In Burgenland, we are implementing it in our policy improvement process. This one thing is that, of course, it's for the small municipalities. It's important to know the results of this, but on the other side, we also plan to generate learning process out of this data. What are the main obstacles? What are the main positive things people generate? And well, not to make a top-down policy paper, but to fill it with the content of the bottom, you can say, and that's our goal in the moment. And we have to see this is quite new. All this data we have to explore further ways on how to maybe implement it in the process of the policy. But that is our approach at the moment. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I mean, the app is giving you a lot of insights for the further network development. So it is kind of a proxy for a participatory process.
Yeah.
But you also said that you only reach the people who walk. So maybe how do you get the opinions of those who don't walk?
I mean, we have the one thing, everybody walks. So even if they just step out of the car and go to the store and so on, of course, we get these people, we get the people who are using public transport and so on. But of course, you're right. It's just one part of the puzzle. I would say it's it's a big goal to reach everybody in all these participation processes. It's maybe not always achievable, but at least it's one approach we can take to reach some of them.
If I can add to that, so the question of having enough insights or representative sample, it really depends on the way you use the app. It can be, as I said at the beginning, it can be used in different ways. Obviously, these walking interviews, you are encountering people who are already in the public space, but if you remember, one of the first insights was to show who walks there in terms of age, gender, and so on, but it's also showing who is not walking there. So if your policy, as you were saying, is to encourage and enable everyone to walk, this insight is already showing who is your target group if you really want to consider everyone. And for example, just to give a small example of what we are doing with this, in Lisbon, for example, in another city, from the beginning, they are really interested in providing accessibility and inclusion for everyone. So the way we are collecting data with them is we're working with communities related to people with reduced mobility and visual and hearing impairments, because we know we might not encounter them in our study areas, but from the beginning, we are inviting them to work with us in different areas and interviewing them and getting their experiences. And as Johannes said, we also, when we are interested in children, we work with schools and specific communities. Yeah, the way you plan the data collection is a key aspect of getting this.
Of course, of course. Now the audience has woken up and there are a few questions for you, but we've kind of already exhausted your time. So maybe I can invite you to look at them in the chat. They are quite specific, and reply to all so that we can all benefit from the answers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. Very interesting, and good luck with the further use of the app. And now it's time to move to Sintra. And we have heard from Jim that the walking experience is very important. So I think Sintra has a very good case for a pleasant walking experience with the new green and blue axis. Sophia and Pedro. Sophia, mainly, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the previous presentations. I learned a lot, and I'm thinking in my mind I have so much more to go further. So let me present our project. We have this challenge that were focused mainly on the a river that crosses different municipalities and different cities. So maybe next slide. So what we have is a change of policy and how to intervene in this area. We try to take the opportunity to with the different thank you. So we had a moment of change in the policies, and so we tried to propose to our electors, and they came with us in this challenge to make a policy that would be integrated in several areas. To give you just a little bit of context, we are focused in Queluz. Queluz is just outside of, it's within the Sintra municipality. The Sintra municipality has almost 400,000 people, and we are just outside of Lisbon, within the metropolitan area. So many people, I would say most of people, go to work in Lisbon and in different municipalities, and so the transport system is very important. Everybody goes to the train or to the buses, mainly the train, and we also have challenges with traffic. And in this area, what we had was the need for more roads, more car park. So maybe next slide. And so we had this area that even the next slide, we had this area that there was supposed to be to make another road just beside the river. The way the city grew was with the backs to the river. The last half of the 20th century, there was a growth in all the density of the population, all the impermeabilization of all our territory, and we didn't have much planning. So the spaces were not well integrated. We have this main structure in our territory that was looked after, and we changed this. We put, okay, let's not turn our back to the river. Let's put the river in the center. So next slide, please. In this slide, you can see we have these big buildings, we have small buildings, we have historic landscapes that we could improve. And you can see here in this slide, we have the river in the center, just behind the old letters. And what we did was take the space that was supposed to be a road, and and you can see that there's a big roundabout there that it seems that it has a scale that is bigger than this was supposed to, because in fact it was supposed to be a road there, and we took that and put the pathway. So next slide, please. Our project had this conceptual approach. We want to make the continuity. our pathway that goes along the river crosses different municipalities. Different municipalities have different electors, and that it was wonderful to see that different approaches to the territory could be integrated and could be coherent, and we could work together to make one project, and to be able that each municipality can work on it separately, but it is coherent, it has the same goal, it has the same materials, it has the same appearance for the people, so that we can have people using all the territory in the same way. And this way we can have the continuity not only of the biodiversity that could be more healthy, we could clean up the river, but also to have this way of while walking and cycling that could have two goals, that could meet two goals. For leisure, you could go 15 kilometers just for leisure on a Sunday morning, and you can go from north to south and stop in the different places you want. And for practical daily activities, if you want to go from your house to the train station, you can go. It passes. All this pathway goes through this train station. So what we can have is also an experience to get to know your territory, because some people are busy in their daily life and they don't know the values of the territory. So next slide, please. In the next slide, you can see that we have several challenges. Not only the river is a challenge with all the biodiversity, all the natural areas that we want to preserve. Not only want to preserve, to clean up, to make it more healthy. And we have different municipalities with different policies. But we also had, have still these physical challenges. We cross two railways, we cross two highways, and that seemed to be in the beginning a really big project and almost overwhelming. So what we did is like we eat a cake. We slice it up and we start eating piece by piece, and we start working on divide the project in areas that we are able to approach and to act immediately. And in this way, you can collect all the pieces like a puzzle. And you'll see at the beginning of the presentation another challenge that we still have. We are still working on the project. But in this way, you can make it real for people. In this way, you can have people using the territory and incentivize more investment in this area. So just to give you a few examples, next slide, please. In this next slide, you can see what I was saying. So we have the railway, the two railways, we could go under it. One of that was already with a road under it. So what we did was to take that area and put the pathway and make it beautiful. If you make beautiful, people need to experience also beautiful places, so that they can have this extra motivation to go with it. And we have different two highways. The second highway that you can see there with Cajas, Carnaxide, all the way to the south, there was a small pathway under the highway. So what we did was work with so many entities, national entities, so that they could make works and still guarantee all the security that we had to meet. The next pathway, the next slide. You can see that at the end. Oh, okay. This slide. There's still this one. So in this slide, what I wanted to show was not only the main pathway that you can see with the green line. We want to connect with other points of interest in the territory. So in the yellow lines, you can see the connection with the National Palace, and you can see the connection with schools, and also with the main railway station. That's also the interface with the buses. In this way, what we want to do is like a spider web, make it a network that people can go and use in their different needs, and make it easy and make it pleasing to make this to adapt the ways that they move, so that they can walk more. So next slide, please. The next slide, you can see that this is at the south, that by Tejo, the river, the Tagus River, and that goes through the sports complex that has the national stadium. So and goes to other points of interest, like the several churches. Here you have the Church of Nossa Senhora da Rocha. This pathway goes through places of interest, like churches. It tries to connect all the historical points, like the National Palace, like the aqueduct, that's also a national monument, and tries to integrate different policies of interacting in the territory. It's possible to use the pathway just for sport, just to enjoy it for leisure, and it's important for your daily needs. In the next slide, well,
yeah,
the next
1 minute.
Yeah, okay. So this next slide, it just shows this is what just wanted to show that it is big dense. It has lots of areas that are so much impermeabilized, like I told you before. In the next slide, we can show you the river. We have the pathway on the top, and there was the need to conserve some of the margins. So we introduced some natural strategies, like this is a crib wall that wants to consolidate the margin, and in this way we can use different strategies to work with the river, to make the pathway safe for people, and to use techniques that are nowadays adjustable. So you can go to the next slide. And to make points of people can stay here, you can have concerts here, you can just sit and enjoy the sun. It's not just a way, it's a place to be, it's a place to stay if you want. Next slide, please. This is just the example of the works that we are doing. We went through gardens, so parks,
yes.
But we also went to...
Please, we also want to have your takeaways, please.
Okay, we can go to takeaways. Yeah. So you can go to the final slide if you want, because yeah, we have new green spaces, and you have all this new route that could be connected. So from our experience, what I felt it was important to share as a takeaway, it's the importance of having integrated policies. And in this slide, you can see the example that I wanted to see. One of the biggest challenges that we have is to cross one highway, and we are trying to get all the license to build a bridge for walking. And this is the example of, if we have a big project, maybe we can look at it, separate by areas, and try. Don't wait to have everything perfect to start to implement it. Be implementing it step by step, and give the big challenges for last, and to have policies that are integrated. Because we have this project integrated with the policy of urban rehabilitation, we can allocate investment to other areas, like not only public spaces. We also have a program to help people to make improvements in their homes, and this way we can have the way we live in cities, that is it's all together, is the way we have the public space, is the way we have the buildings, and to have policies that are integrated, to have investment in private sector and in the public sector. In this way, we can have better results and improve. The first presentation with Jim Walker, he was saying that it's very important not only to think about cycling and walking, but walking and the public transportation. I also feel like that. I also feel that we have a long pathway to and we have a space to make this investment and to change the way we interact in the territory. And this project, it was the first one that we can implement. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Sophia. I mean, congratulations. Obviously, this project is much more than just a walking path. It's a green-blue infrastructure which is connecting different villages and the points of interest. It is having interconnections with public transport. It has aspects of urban regeneration, and it is fully also aligned with the Bauhaus principles of beautifying the city and making them livable. So, Pedro, maybe you want to tell us what prize you have what recognition you have just won for this project.
Yeah, thank you. You do realize that Sophia has so much passion for this project. These few minutes are not enough for her to explain all the importance of the project. But just a quick mention, a few days ago, the European Commission published a report from the Committee of Regions where they recognized 10 good practices in the European Union. And one of them is the green and blue axis in terms of bringing back biodiversity to urban areas. So perhaps Katarina and all the organization can later on share the document with the participants. But it's something that is very regarding and very important for us, and does connect all of these thematics of mobility, biodiversity, in terms of the importance of the project, and connecting it to the promoter project that is regarding these areas. Actually, in the promoter project, in all the study visits, we have done a lot of walking to know the public spaces and connecting from working places to public and social areas. So this walking thematic is very important, and congratulations for the webinar in this practice.
Katarina, you're muted.
Just one quick question. Thank you, and a quick answer. Sophia, you have shown us the challenges of going under and over the existing infrastructure and train lines. Have you made intermodal connections where the pathway is linked with bus stops or train stops as well?
Well, we didn't. Well, we work as a team. We have next to the train stations, we already have the main bus stops, and what happens is some of those areas don't have enough space. So when we say we want more public transportation in these areas, some of them we don't have enough space to put more buses. And that's also a challenge. But yes, we try to make the connectivity of the network and to make this make more easy and usable for people. And in the metropolitan area, it was very important also to have a pass that was all integrated. So with one pass, people can go from one transportation to another transportation, and that's easier to connect and to make it more feasible for people.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. And congratulations again to Sintra and the metro area.
Thank you.
I would like to use the remaining minutes of the webinar to open the discussion to all the speakers. So just all turn on your cameras. And I want to hear, what is your advice to local policymakers who want to give walking more policy attention and create a territory that is truly friendly for walking? What should they do? Where should they start? And we go in order of appearance. So Jim, you go first. And unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry, caught me out. No, I've really enjoyed what I've heard today. I was just trying to pick a couple of things up in the chat. I think there's three things I wanted to share. One is that many cities actually have invested in greenways. Most of the walkable cities in the world have done greenways. Thinking about that connection to nature is really critical, especially in our urban environments. 70% of us now live in cities, and actually having that connection to nature is really important. So linking green and blue and giving us our connection to this quality of life, I think is really key. So congratulations to Cintra, and think about that as something where you can connect people back to that. And don't imagine that there's some problem about it just being for leisure, because in all these cities where they developed a network that they thought was for leisure, it's ended up being an everyday network. And I think that's my second point, is actually thinking carefully about what it is that we're measuring. We saw in Tampere there about measuring mode share, but often mode share is only measuring the commute. The commute is about a third of our trips, and it's mostly looking at male commuting patterns. It misses many of the walking trips, and often it's only trips over 500 meters, etc., etc. Look, we're undervaluing walking very often in those counts. So thinking about measuring minutes, I think, is really critical. And let's think about what quality of those minutes is just as important. Traditionally, transport policies are about time savings. We're actually about not necessarily saving time, but reliability of time is something that walking can give you more than any other mode. So I think that's two. And my final point is thinking about this policy, coming back to the policy, which is where we started. I think Portugal has got one of the best policies in the world at the moment for walking. They launched it just a year ago. What's really interesting about it is that embedded in its vision is the desire for happiness. And it's not often that transport policies talk about happiness, but actually that is something we all appreciate. And you can get that with a successful walking policy. So I would invite anybody to fight as much as they had to inside a transport organization and demand that happiness is a success outcome. And I can tell you that, we've just launched, again, at a pan-European level, a European master plan for walking. It just got published just a few weeks ago. Austria is leading on that process, but France and the Netherlands are involved in it as well. And inside that plan are these same goals that I've mentioned, the same indicators that we've talked about. And I hope that the whole of Europe and everybody listening on this will feel that there is now a structure, a systemic approach that you can take to walking, so that we don't need to be afraid of not knowing what to aim for, not knowing what to measure, not knowing what success looks like. We do know this now, and we've got plenty of examples, and we're here to support you in making sure that no one gets left behind. Thank you. Wow,
okay, it's difficult to come after that. But give it a try. What can we advise the local authorities that want to improve the walkability of their territories? Where to start?
I agree with most of the points that Jim said, but building on that, I think the most important thing is to prioritize walking. My research is not connected with walking, so I can definitely say that at the moment, walking is considered as probably a secondary thing to, say, cars or even cycling. So I think walking should be made a priority first by the cities and for policy development. And then, of course, the city is working on building infrastructure and like sidewalks and pedestrian-only zones and making it safe. But it's also important to integrate with, as spoken before, with other means of transport. And for this integration, I think the most important thing is stakeholder engagement. All stakeholders should be brought in and to discuss on how to make the policy better. And lastly, citizen engagement is also very important through campaigns and to bring them into conversation to make the policy better, to hear them out, basically.
These are great contributions as well that really rounded off the point. Thank you, Johannes and Carlos. Maybe one of you.
Okay. Can I go ahead, Johannes?
I can just give a short one and maybe you can add up to it. For me, and maybe it's already a special again for this rather rural car-centric area where we are working on. It's really, I think, apart from all the structural and financing stuff, it's really about making this shift in the mind, and maybe this connects to what Jim said about happiness. It's connecting walking with a positive and comforting feeling and vision, because I just can say in Burgenland, it's really, even it's not on the table at all, or it is rather like it's for the poor people, it's not attractive and so on. So it has maybe not the best image always. And I think making this shift with the citizens, but also with the politicians and the people for the administration, it's really important to make this shift.
Okay, maybe very fast. Two things. One is that it's really important to take into consideration that different pedestrians have different needs and concerns. And when we talk about safety, activity, and so on, it doesn't mean necessarily the same thing to different people. We need to look into their age, gender, ability to move, and more things. So important to collect data on that. And the second thing is the importance of experience. Jim was talking about happiness. So obviously, objective data on activity and safety gives you a really, really important data you need to have, but it's just half the image of what is happening in your city, because the experience walking and the feel of safe is as important as how many people walk or how many traffic accidents involve pedestrians.
Great. We're still getting new aspects. Sophia and Pedro, do you still have anything to add?
Well, it's difficult to add something after that. I would say it's so important to observe people, to observe how they move, and to respect that. And when we designed maybe have a little bit of humility, not to put just what the architect or someone into the engineer wants to do, but to respect what people are moving. And so maybe we can work together with the social areas, and maybe the social areas can have activities with people, and that will be an opportunity to see what is important for people, how do they move, what's the obstacles they are facing, how is it comfortable or not comfortable for them, because observing can give you information that people cannot express themselves because they don't realize it. So I'd say observe people.
Thank you.
I think.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't add anything, but the term happiness Jim referred is, I think it's the most important word that is being said. And usually we join with happiness some good food and some good pastry. Okay, so if any of you want to visit Sintra and the Green and Blue Axis project, you're welcome.
Okay, maybe somebody requests a peer review and wants to go and visit you and learn from you. So this is also a possible way of doing a peer review, to go and see where something is. So don't hesitate to think about it. We have gathered a lot of aspects, and I'm glad that you also pointed out really the listening to the people, the involvement, perhaps a co-creation, a participatory method to see what people want and need. And also interesting, Johannes, to point out that the rural areas have a different perception of walking, and certainly also need a differentiated approach. All the other points are amazing. What I haven't heard from you today is anything about car use restrictions. And I want to ask a poll to the audience while I ask the speakers. Do you think that, I mean, to limit the freedom of the cars is somehow the thing that nobody wants to touch? But ultimately, we have seen the safety concerns, the casualties. Should we do a webinar, and would it be important also to see how the freedom of the car can be restricted a little bit? I mean, speed limits, walking streets, parking policy, traffic calming. What is your opinion? Last quick round, and not everybody needs to speak. Who wants to say something about this? Just take the floor.
Yeah, I can, if that's helpful. Look, inside our actions, we've got 20 actions that we recommend for walking and cycling, actually, and they do include giving priority to people, which is, what we've just heard from Tampere, is just as important as making it less attractive to drive. And I think most of the successful places, whether it's Copenhagen, Barcelona, wherever you might choose, where we have more walkability, more happy people walking, it's where they've done both. And so we do need to do that. And we need to think carefully about the sorts of places that we want. Basically, is the place where you live a place that when you have children, do you want to move? Or are you happy bringing your children up there? When you walk to school, can your child walk to school on their own? Can they walk in your street without having to hold your hand? And when you get older and you retire, do you live in a place where you want to move out, or you'd be happy to live there? We need to create human cities, human places. And I think this empathy that we've just heard about in Sintra is so key. And that means that we need to create places and give space to the things that matter most in our lives. And I think most of those things are better when we're on foot with each other. Thanks.
Okay, Johannes?
If I may add something to this, I mean, it's always also about framing and communicating, and well, restricting car use. At least if you speak to the public, it's always they are taking something from us. And I think in our daily work, it's always important to tell the people what they are getting. So even if you are talking about, well, if it's implicitly restricting car use, something, it still should be the main goal, and to talk about what the people are getting out of it, and maybe not, yeah. So that's just, even if I think if you're doing a webinar about it, it should also always be connected, not only the restriction, but always what are we doing with this new freedom, and maybe restricting car use is just one measure to get to this new, whatever, this new freedom for people.
Thank you.
Perhaps I could add a point to that. Of course, I feel that restricting car use could be helpful for all the reasons that were mentioned before, but I think it's also about, it's not about restricting freedom for the people, it's about giving them more choices. So if you're restricting car use, then we should provide other options to the people, such as more convenient public transport access, making cycling paths and keeping it safe for them, walking routes being accessible, things like that. So it's not about restricting their freedom, but creating more choices for them.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very politically touchy subject, the car use, especially with some populist parties. Well, let's not get into politics, but all this is also politics, and the public space is just one, and a redistribution is also political. So I just wanted to touch this last topic. So thank you for your take on that, and we will carefully weigh the pros and cons. But it is always the elephant in the room. We're never talking about it, but it is there. Okay, well, it is the end of our webinar. I personally thoroughly enjoyed talking about walking, and then I will walk the talk and do some walking now. And I thank all the speakers for their great contribution, their energy, and their good recommendations. We took note. The recordings and all the write-ups will be available very soon. You get that automatically by email. Thank you very much.
Katerina, can I add just something to the last question, please?
All right.
I'm sorry, I wanted to talk. I didn't warn you in time. Actually, in the region of Lisbon, 10 years ago, when you decided to make a pathway, a cycle pathway or a pathway, or making a car parking spot into a bicycle spot 10 years ago, most of the complaints of the citizens were you are stealing public spaces from the cars. Nowadays, in these 10 years, you created pathways, cycleways, green areas connecting to these pathways, and bike sharing. And most of the complaints nowadays are we want more pathways, cycleways, public spaces, and more bike sharing. So I think the citizens are shifting this sense of the car. Okay, so the car is being put aside by the citizens themselves.
Well, great. Thank you for this last contribution. We see that we are already achieving a mind shift, and it comes with supplying of more infrastructure also. So yeah, thanks, Pedro. Again, thank you for the audience of being patient until now, and for all your thumbs up. I see many familiar names. It was a pleasure working with you, and thank you to my team, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.